I'm such a peacemaker. I'm such a peacemaker. That's what he said to me when we were walking through the woods on a mountain, on the north side of a mountain. I'm such a peacemaker. And he seemed pretty happy with himself. He was real happy, and he seemed, just so glad to recognize that about himself. There's my Bluetooth. Got a little Luther Vandross playing. So amazing to be in love. But the subject today is peace and peacemaking. So years and years went by, maybe 10 or 20 years. And as I got older, I thought, I'm going to study peace and try to understand it better. So when I did, I saw words related to it, that are key words that relate to it, and what the purpose of peacemaking is, what the goals are, what the steps are. So I called this man and I asked him, and I said, what does it mean to make peace? And so I wasn't hearing the words, the synonyms or the related words that are critical to defining peace and peacemaking. So I didn't hear it, and I thought, holy smokes, does this guy really know how to make peace? And so I started explaining to him that the word reconciliation is related to it, and then also unity and agreement, that to get to peace means to get to an agreement where you're in harmony, not fighting each other, not disagreeing, things like that. And so the guy said, you know what, when I talk to people, and he talks to a lot of people talk to him constantly in different parts of society, and he said, you know what, I never talk to people to agree with them. I never try to agree with people. And this is a very pleasant man. He has a perfect bedside manner. I'll say it again, a perfect bedside manner. He's not going to offend you. That's his motive. That's his attitude. But he said, I never try to agree with anybody. And I'm thinking, well, this guy's he doesn't understand peace. He's not really a peacemaker because he's not trying to get to an agreement. So when I study peace and peacemaking, it's a process. It's a concept where you're trying to reconcile with somebody. You're trying to get a reconciliation, and then you have two parties, two people, two groups, two nations or whatever, and they're in disagreement, and somebody offers the other party, the other person, the other nation, acceptable terms of reconciliation, that if this other party, the offending party accepts these things or does these things, you'll be at peace, you'll be at harmony, you'll be in agreement. So when you talk to people, when you live your day, when you're interacting with people, your family, your friends, strangers, people in business that you use for coffee or whatever, do you ever try to agree with them? Do you say I agree with you? Or do you try to get to an agreement? Because a peaceful person is trying to be an agreeable person, not a men pleaser. I'm not saying a yes man. That's not a good character vibe. But being a peacemaker is a good personality trait, character trait. It's a good personality, and it's a good vibe. And Jesus Christ said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." Why did he say that? Because God and Jesus are peacemakers. They're examples of what it means to be a peacemaker. In fact, Jesus' gospel, it says it's the gospel of God's reconciliation. God's reconciliation. What's he trying? It says he's trying to reconcile the world to himself. God is taking the initiative because his motive is, I'm a peacemaker. I'm going to try to make peace with what I made, the creation. I'm going to try to make peace with man, woman, and child. I'm going to try to make peace with these people, the people that I created. Because we're at odds, we're in conflict, and I say the conflict is character. It's a character conflict. That we're so far away from being like God. I'm not talking worship or being a creator. I'm talking we just don't have his nature, and he's trying to get us back to behave in a way that's very pleasant for him and everybody else. And so the problem is we have a character conflict. and he's trying to reach out to us through the gospel. I'm just using it as an example of being a peacemaker. The gospel, the purpose, the reason the gospel was written, because God the Father, it has a character trait of peacemaking. Jesus is called the Prince of Peace. It motivates him to reach out to the offending party and offer acceptable steps or terms to come to be in harmony and be at peace. You know, I've had another discussion with you, another video called I've Made My Peace with God. And my question is, okay, is that what we're supposed to do? On whose terms? On your, what do you mean? Your terms or God's terms? God's terms or your terms? So that's the big question. You know, have you made your peace with God? Because God is trying to make peace with us, but it must be on his terms because he's the one that's right. We're the ones that wrong. All right? So it's good to make peace with God because God is trying to make peace with us. If you look at the cross, it's a miserable situation. It's not pleasant. Nobody likes the cross. Even Jesus didn't want to die on the cross. He prayed 3 times that if it's possible, let it be a different way. He didn't want to die, but he had enough courage to die so that God could use that to draw men to him, to try to be at peace with them, because God is a peacemaker. And if you're a peacemaker in your relationships, you're going to think reconciliation. You're going to think steps. You're going to think acceptable terms to try to reach out to the offending party, your wife, your husband, your children. You're going to try to say, hey, you know, here's what we're having a conflict. Here's what I think. Here's what we need to do. Are you willing to do that? And then so we can have peace and harmony. It could be something as simple as, you know, quit taking all my clothing and washing it the first day. You know, you're really making me mad. You're taking my clothing and you're washing it before I can even wear it. You keep washing my clothes. They're going to wear out. You're causing conflict. Now, it's a silly example. It doesn't mean anything. I'm just saying somebody that's the offended party, that's truly righteously offended, needs to reach out to the offender and try to give terms of reconciliation so you can get to be one. All right? So God wants to be one with us. He wants to be in harmony. He doesn't like conflict. God is not a God of conflict. He has great character. If you really understand peace and peacemaking, and you look to the Lord, you will find out that he's a fantastic, harmonious being that doesn't want conflict. He's not afraid of conflict, but he's not a conflicting person. But if you get to go back to the beginning illustration, a real illustration, I'm such a peacemaker. I'm such a peacemaker. Are you really? Do you try to agree with people? Are you trying to see if you can agree with them? When I figure this out, and I realized and was convinced I need to be an agreeable person, not be the devil's advocate, that's a bad character trait. And I have a discussion on that in my videos, but the devil's advocate is not a good character trait because the devil's advocate isn't even trying to agree with you. He's thinking, how can I disagree? How can I disagree? How can I disagree? And you'll say, no, we need opposition to try to see if something's true. I understand your intellect. I can understand that. But overall, if your attitude is to be a devil's advocate, you're not a peacemaker. Don't fool yourself. You're not that smart. You're missing a key character trait that will make you a more pleasant person. It will make you more happy. It'll make you happier if you try to agree with people. And don't ever be a men pleaser. I'll address that subject soon, maybe. But men pleasing, a yes man, a yes woman, this is not the way to be. It is totally lacking good character. So, but if you want to be a peacemaker, you need to think about your day. Am I at conflict with anybody? Am I going to have a conflict? How can I resolve it? Can I offer terms of reconciliation to this person to see if they'll accept them so we can be at peace? So you have to have courage to be a peacemaker. It takes bravery and ambition. These are other good character traits. But if you've offended somebody else, you need to figure out, what can I do to make peace with you? Have you ever said that to somebody you know you offended? And you want them to be happy with you, right? Because you hate conflict, let's say. you need to ask them, what can I do to make peace with you? What can I do to make it right? And I've done that. I've looked back at my life and I've reached out to people because I'm just like you. I'm worse than you. I'm worse than you. Let's just get it over with. I have my flaws, and I've had character flaws, and I'm trying to mitigate them. I'm trying to get them out of my life, and not be the devil's advocate and be a peacemaker, trying to see if I can agree with somebody. So what I do is with my adult children and whatever, young children, spouse, whatever, I try to say, as soon as they say or do something that seems acceptable, I say, I agree with you on that. I agree with what you just said. I just so agree with what you just said. And it's kind of like yesterday I was trying to get cell phone service, and this will be my last example and I'll wrap it up. I was trying to get a new cell phone service. I'm new to the Philippines, new living here. I've been here several times, but now I'm living here and I'm in General Santos, and I'm trying to get some sort of heavy data, high data cell phone plan. And I'm sitting there talking, and Mahalkita's next to me, and we're talking to this woman. There's a lot of people in there, very calm, and she's trying to get me this plan. We start talking, and somehow I brought up the subject, because sometimes people say I'm tall, and I say, well, was that a requirement for heaven? Is that going to get me in heaven? And they say no. But I forget what I brought up to her, but she said no, personality. It's about personality. And I thought, holy smokes, I so agree with you that the requirements for heaven is a certain type of personality. Character is what she meant. See, there's a lot of power in personality. Jesus Christ had a terrific personality. He was not a handsome guy. It says in the prophecy in Isaiah that he had no form that we would be attracted to him physically. He was not an attractive guy. He wasn't stately. That means tall, like a Clydesdale horse, beautiful, big horse, or a king, a tall king. He had no regality to him. He had no stature, man. And so, but why were people attracted to him, the 12 disciples? Because he had a personality that was fantastic. All right? So if you want to be a peacemaker, you need to figure out how to come to an agreement with somebody and offer them terms, or you get terms from them if you're the one that's the problem. And what can I do to make this right? How can I make peace with you? All of us that get caught in court, and I'm not saying I've ever been caught in court, if we've done something wrong, that's what we need to do in the court. How can I make this right? How can I make peace with you? What if you don't know what to do, if you don't know how to fix it, ask somebody. Because people get upset. We upset people. So are you a peacemaker, or are you something else? Don't deceive yourself. How much do you agree with people? How agreeable are you? God is an agreeable God. He's trying to get in agreement. What are you trying to do? Are you brave and bold enough to do that?